Even as a little kid with no real knowledge on filmmaking, I always knew that there was something special about Up. Everything about it just seemed so incredible to me, from the story to its characters to the score to its many emotional moments. Ellie dies, Carl fills up a bunch of balloons to travel to their dream spot, and hijinks ensue. It doesn't seem special on paper, so what was it about this movie that my family and I loved so much? Well, now that I'm older, I think I finally get it. So without further ado, here's why Up is my pick for the best Pixar movie of all time. So out of all 28 Pixar movies, This is the movie that paved the way for other stories from Pixar that are entertaining for children, but also having messages aimed toward adults, like Inside Out and Soul. Much like Brad Bird, Pete Docter's Pixar movies are very unique, having concepts kids will go into for the escapism, but also having deep emotional themes that resonate with much older audiences. Plus or minus Monsters, Inc. I'm still not sure on that one. And that's just one of Up's amazing strengths, so let's continue on to some of its other elements. And the biggest thing you gotta talk about with this movie is its opening. The best and most important part of the whole film. Right out of the gate, Pixar pulls at our heartstrings, introducing us to a young Carl and Ellie. They form a strong friendship together, and it quickly becomes clear that they both have very similar interests.
South America. It's like America, but South.
After the first scene, we fast forward to their wedding day. The iconic montage of their life together begins. This entire 4-minute montage is perhaps the most iconic and most memorable part of the whole movie, accompanied by a great score and visual storytelling without having to say a single word. It feels like we're really living Carl and Ellie's life with them as they navigate through their setbacks, their lifetime goals, their highs and lows, and you understand their relationship and the camaraderie that they have with each other. Director Pete Docter explained that the fact that there's no sound kind of complements the montage more, because that allows the audience to participate more actively and just be immersed in everything that's going on. That is the magic of visual storytelling, and it's why this whole montage is so beloved. Just 4 minutes and 13 seconds of beautiful real-life moments showing the ups and downs life can bring and how they go through them together. While seeing their life together is beautiful, it's also heartbreaking too, because as kids they made a promise that one day they would travel to Paradise Falls. And while they tried to save money for their future trip as grown-ups, life just kept getting in the way. So by the end of the montage, just as Carl bought tickets to finally fulfill his promise, Ellie unfortunately becomes sick and eventually passes away after giving Carl her adventure book as a final gift. And of course, that last scene, seeing Carl alone after Ellie's funeral, mourning the loss of his love and returning to his now empty home. That's the most tragic part of the whole thing, since Carl is now stuck with the question,
now what?
He has to confront his new life without Ellie, as well as the regret of failing on his promise to her. I can only imagine what it must feel like when you think your best days are behind you, and you think you'll never be able to live the same life you had before. For Carl, his best days were his time with Ellie, which is why he refuses to leave his house even when his entire neighborhood has been demolished around him. He's still trying to hang on to the life he used to have. He's grumpy around others, doesn't seem to care about his surroundings that much, and has no trouble whacking a dude in the head with his cane.
I don't want you to touch him! Ow!
Carl feels as if he had lost all the joy in his life, and the house was the last thing he has left that's closest to the happiness he felt back then. And it soon became Ellie in his mind. He speaks to it like Ellie is still there and listening, taking care of every piece of furniture and object like he's taking care of his wife. And it all boiled down to Carl eventually thinking enough was enough. After tying thousands of balloons to his house, he set sail to experience adventure once again and keep his promise to Ellie. I've seen some people say that the movie tanks once the adventure gets started, and the rest of it is pretty mid. I can see where those people are coming from, since nothing can top the brilliance of the opening, but that couldn't be further from the bigger picture. Yes, Carl floating to Paradise Falls in his house is very cartoony, but his actions are understandable once you take his age and his reasoning behind doing such a thing like this into account. I feel like this second part of the movie speaks to how tempting it is to remove ourselves from our reality when we feel as if we've lost everything we hold dear. With so much sadness and pain inside of you, it can definitely feel hard to interact with the world again. There's themes of isolation and loneliness that are present throughout the whole film, and it's something that affects not only Carl, but also many of the other characters who come along for the adventure. Russell is an 8-year-old wilderness explorer who unexpectedly joins Carl's adventure. He's shown to be very positive and hardworking, even if said hard work involves climbing.
You on the porch yet?
All he wants to do throughout the movie is complete his stash of badges so he can become a senior wilderness explorer. But then along the way, we get to know Russell a little better. We learn that his parents got divorced and his father seemed to no longer be there for him. It's especially heartbreaking since we never get to see him reunite with his dad, which is something he wanted more than anything else in the world. Loneliness is something that Doug goes through himself. We see that he doesn't seem to fit in with the rest of the other talking dogs and is often ridiculed for his naivete. It reflects the kind of feeling that even though we're physically around other people, we still feel isolated and lonely. This is something that can also be observed in Charles Muntz. He was originally a famous explorer that Carl looked up to and wanted to be himself. He explored numerous areas, discovered countless artifacts. He was on top of the world, which is unfortunately what led to his downfall. This success made him very famous, but is also what made him lonely and obsessed with finding the one treasure he couldn't succeed in achieving. He spent decades in Paradise Falls trying to find the bird that destroyed his reputation in the first place. It also becomes clear that this guy is a deranged lunatic, as you see from the helmets he knocks over. A little nod to the fact that he may have killed all of them. I mean, a surveyor making a map, a botanist cataloging plants, and soon, an old man taking his house to Paradise Falls. Freaking chills, man. In a way, Muntz's character works the best in terms of what could happen when we drive ourselves too far. We may not actually grow evil, but we do end up losing ourselves after becoming consumed by something we can't seem to get out of. It's why episode 4 of What If Season 1 is my favorite. Strange made the decision of mutating himself into every possible being in order to bring back Christine, which is what eventually led to his downfall. He went too hard, and as a result, his world and the love of his life became no more. He just couldn't give up an impossible goal. Throughout the whole movie, it becomes clear that Carl's biggest regret is not getting to experience an adventure with Ellie. As you get older, it's easy to look back on your life and ponder on what it could have been like, and what more you could have done to make your life have more of an impact. In Up's case, we spend most of the movie thinking adventure is something that happens when you get out of your comfort zone, exploring new places, overcoming impossible odds, reaching incredible achievements. But the film slowly pulls back and shows what having an adventure can also be like. From the beginning, Carl's motivations for having an adventure came from Muntz, but it soon becomes clear that it's not quite all that it's cracked up to be. And after Russell shares his life he had with his dad to Carl, saying that he remembered the boring stuff the most, Carl begins to have second thoughts about his initial plan. It all soon culminates in this freaking amazing scene when Carl flips through Ellie's adventure book, seeing photos of his time with Ellie, and all the adventure and meaning it had that he didn't see while living it, finally leading up to the last page with that single message from Ellie. Thanks for the adventure. Now go have a new one. Bro, that's so good! She had filled in the blank pages of her book of mementos of her life with Carl, not of amazing travels, but instead of all the simple pleasures of her everyday life. This is another one of the best scenes in the entire movie, because it reminds us that for as long as we live on this planet, we can still do the things we love most. Sure, they may not be as ambitious as flying a house to Paradise Falls, I mean, obviously not, but that doesn't mean we should take any of the simple moments for granted. We should be able to cherish every memory we make, big or small, both from the past and in the present. Carl's life with Ellie was an adventure in its own way, and it's sweet she recognized it as such before she died. So when Carl clears his house of all his belongings to save Russell, we see that he has finally learned to let go and appreciate the memories shared with Ellie. In the end, when we see the house float away into the clouds, Carl says,
You know, it's just a house.
we see that he is finally ready to fully embark on a brand new adventure with his newfound friends and family. This is another important message because it's something we can come to at any age, regardless of any pain or regret we may have gone through. That doesn't mean the old times no longer matter, but there's always room for more moments like this. In the end credits of the times Carl spent with Russell and Doug, it shows that going on simple adventures and making special memories with the people around him are the moments worth having an adventure for. I totally get that there is a tendency to judge this film solely on its first 15 minutes, which everyone will agree as one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking relationship montages in film history. But I genuinely think the entirety of Up is great. I don't even go into the adventure aspect of it that much, and it is what makes the movie very fun and exciting, but I just wanted to focus on the most important parts of what make it a near-perfect masterpiece in my eyes. The entire film expresses humor, charm, emotion, and excitement, and it's for all these reasons why I've considered Up to be the best Pixar movie for the longest time, and I doubt that will ever change.